Hello and welcome, greetings and salutations. Welcome to my humble abode. This is like the fourth take because my software keeps crashing and my brain is bad and I have no idea how to speak English with people. But I'm just gonna roll with this one and I don't really care. So I don't really want to waste your time and I'm just gonna spoil it for you. This is just a huge advertisement for me and you've been debated to watching it, but since you're here anyway, you might as well stay a while and listen. I'm just gonna show you some things I've done, and it's gonna be an interesting retrospect for me personally. And then I'm gonna show you some more things and talk about things, and that's about it. Nothing really exciting. Anyway, uh, I've been doing this for some years. I started out just buying a tablet not really knowing what the hell I'm doing, and I've been doing art, although with some huge gaps, I'm gonna admit. But I ended up here with a tablet and still not really knowing what the hell I'm doing. And I am here today to sell out and offer my services to you. Um, my story is as old, well, not as old as the world, but as old as the time that cash was invented and well, plain and simple, the raw deal is that I just need cash, and if you've got some work for me, that would be awesome. Now, I'm gonna say that if you want some good quality art, you want someone to draw something for you, you should hire an actual artist that knows what they're doing. But if you're on a budget and you're in the market for some bootleg art and bootleg doodles, I'm here for you, bud. So now, this is something I've done for that one streamer that one time because I wanted to be an attention whore and steal some of their time to be on their streams, and that's something that happened. This is a crossover between Darkest Dungeon and Disco Elysium, Terry Dubois and Kim Kitsuragi on the hunt for the famed malignant entity of the doomed commercial area because I guess those are the kind of ideas that my head is filled with. Like I don't know, like McCree and uh, Arthur Morgan. Are they both using Deadeye? Well, shit, gotta draw them having a duel or something and do another weird crossover. And that's just a trend I noticed with myself, I guess, recently. Uh, this is something I've done for Slay the Spire and never actually finished but still I kind of like it as it is. This is a thing I've done for that one RP project that I participated in. Just a weird redhead vampire character with just doing her own thing. A couple more minor characters, just some raw sketches, some small events, and just a random goddess of war and agriculture, I guess. Also, some Binding of Isaac Eve fan art happened quite a while ago at some point somehow. And then also this happened. And this, and it actually kept happening throughout all the years that I've been doing this every once in a while. And apparently I draw a lot of my own OC because I don't have any imagination and I just stick to what's comfortable for me. And I am just a tiny little bit obsessed with paladins and nuns, and let's just say Helsing and Alexander Anderson left quite an impression of me at that time that's still wearing off. So basically, a bunch of my OC, quite a lot actually, and some ponies because you know why not and ponies that are actually my OC at the same time. And I know what you're thinking. And I had a problem. Okay, that was a period in my life, and I own up to it. I have no regrets whatsoever. That's something that happened, and that's something that's gonna stay with me for the rest of my life. And all of this and everything else can be found on uh, my DeviantArt. And just a fair warning, just some some questionable art, some cringeworthy art, I would say, some things I would disagree with myself from a few years back on, but it is there, and it happened, and it's gonna stay there, and I'm gonna live with it. Now, the other thing is that at the beginning of the year, I started to dabble in some 2D animation. I wanted to break through and try something similar to what I'm doing right now, but I don't really know much about animation. I don't have any software for it, but I started with this little thing, uh, these three little sketches that I've never actually finished. It's basically an animation for that one skit on Vermintide 2, where Saltspire is a steam tank. And it was a learning experience. I might finish it someday, but then I switched onto something for my own personal tastes, and who would have guessed? It's just my OC again, just swinging a giant bell in a weird, ruined purple church. Don't ask me about it. It makes sense in my head. I don't really know how to explain it. But then some Slay the Spire fan art happened, and I posted it on Reddit, and I felt good about myself for a little bit because people there seemed to like it, but uh, that's another story that's I'm gonna touch upon, I guess, at the end of the video. Uh, Now, the fun part is that all of those animations were done in Paint Toolsai as well, because as I mentioned, I don't really know or have any software for 2D animation, and I wanted to include sort of a speed speed paint thing on how I animate things in Paint Toolsai, as weird as it is. But as you'll see further along, it took me at this point quite a while already to get this done, and I will do it at a later date, hopefully, and explain my, you know, masochistic ways of doing things exactly the opposite way as to how they should be done, and the way you should never actually do that. Now, the main thing uh, about this video I wanted to show, and my brightest idea, and the thing that I am gonna to entice you into using my services, is giving you all the reasons to not commission me ever. And I'm just gonna, welcome you into a world of my prolonged suffering and my brain melting. So you actually see the way I function when I try to draw something. I want to preface that someone who knows what they're doing, a good artist can do this, in an hour. An average artist who knows what they're doing can do this, in 3 hours, and that's probably generous. But when I've popped all of my footage that I had to Sony Vegas, I had 20 plus hours of footage. Now, Sony Vegas cannot actually speed up such an amount of footage to such a point that I was happy with, because I wanted to make a short, sweet, like 10-minute video and just talk a little bit over it. And how much can you speed things up? Like 4 times, some other things you can do, but it would actually take me several weeks to actually render all of that, then speed it up several times after rendering it. So the way I went about it is I just chopped it up to some bits and pieces to showcase some main points, and it still ended up as around 25 minutes. So, you know, kind of strap yourself in. This might take a little while. And what I wanted to showcase is just, it's gonna be hard to translate it through just raw video, but this is pretty much 20 hours of my brain melting in not in real time, but sped up and chopped up, but still. And just to show you that I still don't really know what the hell I'm doing, and the way I don't really consider myself an artist. I've seen people draw stuff like I've seen some streams and people just draw raw outlines straight away, like they kind of see it. And I always thought that when artists draw, they they kind of see they see everything they want to do. They know how it's gonna turn out. They see it in their brain. And here's me like just struggling with the perspective on the leg, because that line in the middle is just me trying some with perspective. It's not how I imagined it in my brain, but I just went with it. I just wanted to try my hand like at the bottom to the top. I don't really know how to properly call this perspective, but a camera on the bottom, and it takes me a huge chunk of time to just figure out how the hell should I draw one thing or another. And like, this leg is going forward, so it should kind of be like bigger, and like if it's going back, it should be smaller and whatnot. And speaking of what I was initially talking about, some artists, I guess, do have that kind of vision that they know what they're doing, but whenever I draw, I just kind of call it, I guess, scaffolding, sketch scaffolding. I never know what my art is gonna look like when I start out. I have a rough idea, but I don't have that kind of vision that I know exactly what I'm going for, and I experiment a lot. And here, I'm kind of alright with some cell shading, some stricter colors, but I am an absolute idiot at color in terms of blending. And I I cannot really see it. I just experiment a lot, including this. Even the sketch, I didn't know what I was going for, but this is not how I imagined it. I just wanted a just the characters facing forward without this perspective. But then I just sort of tried it and went along with it, because I'm kind of a masochist, I guess, and I always try to jump above my head. I guess that's one way to learn. Just try to do things that you're not good at. I guess that's pretty much self-evident. But it I would say it takes me quite a bit more than an average person, and this is just, I don't know. At the time when I edited this, I knew exactly what and what happened and where. But I think this is just me trying to figure out this perspective on Yennefer's face, and you can see there are some references I've got to the right. And as I look at this, I just wanna, once again, a fair warning, is the reason I almost never stream, especially my early sketches. There is some nightmare fuel in this. Well, something close to that. The way that, yeah, the way that my early sketches look, and as long as I try to figure it out. So yeah, basically, the way I draw is pretty much garbage. But what I do is, and this is the reason I don't really think of myself as an artist, I try to play around with things, and then I cannot really draw straight away, but I can kind of see what's going wrong with my sketch, and I don't always have the means to remedy that, to fix it straight away, or to know exactly what I'm doing wrong. But what this is basically me drawing the same faces and this trying to figure out perspectives over and over again. I mean, you might think that the sketch is just an early part, but this sketch is what took me the most time out of all of this. Just me playing around and trying to figure it out, how to draw it in such a perspective that's gonna make sense looking from bottom to the top at this weird angle. And there are sort of semi-montages. I'm just skipping around back and forth, you know. There's gonna be like an arc for all the faces of Yen. Now this is all the faces of Geralt. I'm struggling to figure out all the faces of Triss. And speaking of references, I just needed something to base it on, but it's not gonna look anything like the characters depicted on the right. And if I don't know, if you did not skip ahead, this is basically some Witcher fan art, and it's one of those crossover ideas I had. Basically, Geralt. It's something I've when I played the game Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. When he hated portals, I just imagined him in Portal, pretty much the video game. So I already there are some sketches for the portal guns. So like Geralt hate portals. Gotta put him in a portal game. Hilarious, right? So anyway, this is just me. Even after I've laid down the initial sketches, I still have no idea what's wrong. Trying to figure it out, drag some stuff around, and if if you are new to art, to drawing, that those two arrows pointing left and right, basically switching perspectives from left to right, use that a lot, because what happens is I draw something, especially in my earlier days, and it looks alright, kind of like it, and then you invert the image, and then you don't really know what the hell is that. You think, what did I draw? Why does this look so wrong? And that's because you get so used to the picture. And I do a bunch of this here, trying to figure things out. And it's just weird how at 1 second everything looks normal. You kind of like it, then you flip it, and everything goes wrong so fast, and you kind of have to fix it all over again. And this is the arc, the faces of Triss. I think there is some nightmare fuel over here. It took me quite a while. At some point, I get so fixated on just, for example, drawing the face, that I kind of forget about the overall perspective. Like over here, I gotta have a lot of problems because I would just struggle with the, placing eyes and whatnot, just drawing the basics, that I would forget about the perspective. And when I would finish something, there is one point I think you will see that it skews to such a point that she's like almost leaning her head to the right, which is not what I was, not what I intended at all. So I had to redraw it all over again. So yeah, this is basically it's gonna last for quite a while, but I've had to go through 20 hours of this. I've skipped quite a lot, but still having 25 minutes out of 20 plus hours is, especially considering that I don't edit a lot, I will give myself a pass on this one. And in terms of like character proportions and perspectives, I don't really know how to describe it, but I've been spoiled to such a point, and this is just, if I was drawing just an weird angry man instead of Geralt, I think I would succeed over here, but yeah, I'm gonna struggle for quite a while. But still, I've seen so much, stylized drawings, anime and whatnot, my brain has been spoiled to such a point that even, I have a reference right in front of me. But even if I look directly at the human, I still have no idea how to translate human traits onto an image. Like I have no idea what the human looks like, even if I look directly at the human, because I want to draw eyes, and whoops, god damn it, I've drawn some anime eyes again. I just, it just happens. I cannot help myself. And here I'm trying just to figure out, like, are those eyes too big? Am I drawing anime eyes? Like, if I don't draw anime eyes, will it look more like Geralt or not? And uh, I think of this is the point when Geralt transitions from a weird angry man to kind of a still random but more like surprised man, still kind of struggling with outlines and whatnot. Yeah, I think I've included quite a bunch, and this is all chopped up, so it's not like just speeding up footage. It's just every if you see a cut, just every cut is me. Oh yeah, there we go. Is me completely erasing and redrawing it from pretty much scratch, trying to figure it out. And you know, the problem here is I kind of understand the basics. Like if you're looking from bottom to the top, like all of his facial features should be like higher and kind of squished, and you would see kind of his neck and his chin and the beard. But I didn't really know in terms of lines how to outline it, how to draw it. I guess here I put it down slightly to kind of signify that the beard is from below. And this is, yep, the saga of the phase for the trees continues, and I think this is the most nightmarish. Yep, there we go. There she is. And I'm I kind of know that what I'm going for. She's completely skewed, like diagonally now, and I'm gonna redraw it later. But I know what I'm kind of going for, like a hippie vibe, and like I know her eyes should be, on the reference, her eyes are kind of squinted, and you know she should have open eyes, like all happy, a huge mouth. But like then again, there is the problem of the anime mouth, because a normal human mouth is not that huge. But then you kind of lose the thread between trying to follow the reference, then trying to stylize it, try to do your own thing. So kind of half of it ends up being stylized, like overblown proportions, and at the same time you're trying to do it like to follow human proportions, and it all just looks weird. Here I think is the point where I start to do some like more finalized outlines. I finally found something that I'm more or less happy with, and I just want to once again preface this that I am a lazy piece of shit, so I did not intend for this to be a final sketch, so there are no like properly done outlines. I expected when I drawn Triss, I expected this to just be another sketch that I'm gonna draw over, but it's I started to do some out of habit to do some details, so I ended up with a relatively lazy lines. And this is just a small thing I did. By the way, never do it like this. There is probably a smarter way to do this, but I've just drawn, kind of trying to do a texture for the armor of the Witcher, like on his shoulders and whatnot. So I kind of fill it in and cut it out. And I fail. I don't make. My brain here melts as well. I'm trying to figure out how to loop it properly, and I just I think I just give up and just whatever I've had there, I just copy and paste it, and then now I'm trying to figure out the way to make it, curve around his body, and I'm trying to use the smudge tool, but the smudge tool just, it's well, it kind of blurs everything too much. So I just took some chunks and, I just deformed them, and in retrospect, it looks all right, and no idea why, but I reversed the texture over here, and I don't think it's physically or like proportionately correct, but I don't know, at the time it made sense. Doesn't make sense now, but still, it's a thing I did, and I'm just gonna, copy and paste this all over. Uh, for what it is, I think it ended up looking all right. But yeah, there is a, if it was like a few years ago, I would just draw all of that manually like an idiot. But I'm sure there is a smarter way, and some smarter people know how to properly do what I try to do there. And here, I think we're coming to some more finalized outlines, and I think I am gonna be honest. I think the sketch, there will be a point where it's all yeah, something like this, where it's everyone in one shot. I do believe the sketch, like the lines here, what I've ended up with, do look alright. For me, like, it's a problem for me because uh, when I draw something, I kind of quickly lose interest because a drawing for me is kind of done when I'm done with the sketch, when I lay down the basic forms and whatnot. I'm not really interested to go all over it to, give it that final polish and whatnot. So everything will start to go wrong once again when I decide to paint this. And also, by the way, this is paint tool side to the rightmost icon on the tray there up above the line. It's the way I drawn all of those straight lines for the background. I think it's kind of useful. So, but you can also press shift and click, and it's gonna do a similar thing. And this, I guess it's not. This is where my brain stopped melting quite as hard. But this is probably like 10, 15 hours in, just the sketch and the outlines. But I am aware that what I'm trying to do here, I don't really know how to do it properly. I do not understand color the way people do. I don't do color palettes, and for most of my time, because I'm a lazy piece of shit, I just use a single brush. But I think it's not as evident here, but there will be a point where we'll, right now I'm using a blur tool, and there will be a brush later, so, I guess I'm kind of evolving slowly, very slowly, but steadily. But what will happen is I will color in trace, and I will decide that, uh, this is not gonna cut it, and I'm just gonna go and play around with the brushes and find something I am more comfortable with. It's not gonna change much, but it became more enjoyable to do all this with some new brushes, and I think it looked 10% better than what it would have been. And right now, I'm not really why. Usually, the way I do it, I started to use the bucket tool a lot. If you do your outlines properly, it's very easy to color in things with the bucket tool. So, but my outlines were not great on this one. And this is the point where I changed the brushes. But still, for Tris, as I've said, my sketch and my outlines were not great, so I could not use the bucket tool, and I've just painted her in gray and went over it with some actual color. I, you know, I'm not really sure. Previously, as any new artist would do, I would just manually color everything with a brush. Here, with Geralt, my outlines were alright, so I'm using the bucket tool here. But in my past years, I would actually go and draw everything manually. And I don't think the way I color is smart, but it is better than what I did when I started out. And yeah, this is just um, the way I use the bucket tool. It left a lot of gaps open, so I just need a background to fill all the blank white spots. And at this point, as I am not really great with blending and color and whatnot. I cannot, at least not at the time, I couldn't manage to place my shadows properly. Like, it still looks pretty bland, so I go in with another layer and just go with shadow over what I've already drawn, just with another layer, and did some hard shadows that way. And someone who would know what they're doing, they could probably, they would get it straight away. But I guess the moral of the story is, if you're struggling with your painting and whatnot, if you put, like, there are some amazing things your software can do for you, even if you are an untalented hack. You know, some filters, some layers, some modes, some effects can salvage whatever you did and make it look decent. And this is like case in point. Like, I've completely messed up the shadows. I just went over with a shade layer, and I wouldn't say it looks good, but it looks more presentable than it did before. Some basically finishing touches for the portal guns and whatnot. And whenever I draw, whenever I want to put some, eye highlights and whatnot, or stuff like this that don't want to mess with the layers, I just put, I just start putting lazily start putting layers on top of everything else and just drawing that way instead of using the proper layers. So I'm just doing some lighting and whatnot. And yeah, in the end, I still like to play around with hues and saturation and whatnot. Still, once again, at the point that if you mess around with some settings and some effects, if whatever you did looks like garbage, you can still kind of salvage it to be decent. And yeah, this is the point. This is me just drawing. I don't know. I forgot the chain, so I just lazily I added in. This is the point where if I look at a drawing, I think it looks decent, then I invert it, and like Geralt is not centered anymore, and everything just starts to look so wrong again. And that's about it, pretty much. You know, in retrospect, I would have done a bunch of things differently if I could have tried harder. Like hair, you just don't do hair like that. Overall, it's a very lazy way to do it. But uh, in my defense, I'm just gonna say that at this point, like, the way it ended up is miles better than what I would have expected. At this point, my head was already fuming. I wasn't really functioning at acceptable levels, acceptable biological levels of a human being. And in my head, it looked cooler in my head. That's about it. But you know, Yen is too goddamn long. Triss ain't got no neck, and I forgot to paint the swords for Geralt. And there are probably a bunch more things that are wrong. But in the end, I think it's very alright. That's about it. Now, if you've skipped to this point, well, good for you. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna blame you, but once again, I understand, and it's something I would have done. I guess at this point, the video is over. You can go home, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing to see here. But if you have stuck it out and watched it for I don't know if you watched it all or something. There are just a couple more things I want to mention. Firstly, I have done a single commission. It was an animation, and it happened at the beginning of the year. It was very nerve-wracking. I didn't know how it worked, both in terms of socializing with people, in terms of taking the commission itself, and the payment, but it went all right. So if you do have any work for me, I am going to be using PayPal because that's uh, the thing that works for me, and I don't plan to change it. The second thing is that, well, long story short, is that man, self promotion is hard, and I don't really have a good way of going about it. I try hard it so much at the beginning of the year when I try to do animations, and that's the way I got my commission. But I don't use I don't use social media for my own purposes, so just weird to have all those dead channels and like posting stuff, shoving yourself down people's throats. So it's not for me. So I basically just stick to YouTube and DeviantArt, things I know and that have practical use for me. And even though my DeviantArt looks like this, because apparently it got blocked in Russia or something, I'm still gonna use it out of habit, I guess. And this video here is, I guess, one man, one video campaign for glorious self-promotion. I don't really plan to do anything outside of it. So if you stuck it out, if you've gained some enjoyment out of it, even if you don't really plan to use anything I offer, which is like good for you, I wouldn't. But if you feel sympathetic, wanna support me in some kind of way, just press a button and leave a like, leave a comment or something. I wouldn't usually care about gaming the YouTube algorithm in some way, but if there is one video that I would bother, this would probably be it. This is the one that I care about promoting something. One other thing I almost forgot to mention is the one commission I've done was actually not safe for work, and it was not safe for work to such a point where it got yeeted off of Pornhub. So I don't really have a good way to showcase it or make it a part of my portfolio, but uh, what I mean by this is that if you've got something, something, I don't know, violent or something very lewd and naughty in mind, I don't have really strict boundaries, but some things I will not do, and the only real way to find out is to just talk to me about it openly. I've worked some time in an adult shop, and I don't really like. I will not judge, but yeah, just spill the beans and tell me about it, and we'll figure it out from there. In the end, I would like to just give some words of encouragement and inspiration. Uh, if you're an aspiring artist just starting out, yeah, basically, if an idiot like me who doesn't really have a steady hand, doesn't understand color, doesn't understand color blending that much, if I can do it, so can you. And if there is any advice I would give is to just watch some tutorials, at least to the point where you understand your software, whatever you're working with, to the point of comfort where you can start to use tools to your own benefit and find ways to employ them in new ways to, find something that you're comfortable with. Because my software, as you could see, does a lot for me, and I cannot draw traditional art. I can only draw digitally. Things like the stabilizer and paint tools help me out a lot. But as you can see with time, and for some people it's more time than others, I've been doing this for a few years and well, I didn't get far, but I got better than I used to be. So, just stick it out and Whenever I look at actually good art, how do I put it? It makes me want to conclude my existence. And, sometimes watching people do good brings you down. You feel kind of worthless, but there is like this weird train of thought that I came up with that kind of helps me with it, and I don't really have a good way of putting it into words, but you don't really have to aim to be good as someone else. Like if someone does really good and you don't really know how to imitate that, how to be as good as them, like uh, they already occupy that spot. Someone is already doing whatever you're aiming for. If you try to go like for someone else's success, try to replicate that. So you don't really have to aim at someone's level. Just do your own thing. With time, you'll get better, and it is worth to do just because it's still something unique. It's an outlet for your personal views, so it doesn't matter if it's not as good as someone else in particular. Because, well, if you just do the same thing as them, and it's kind of pointless. You're better off just doing something of your own, and maybe you'll develop your own style and whatnot, like in a weird roundabout way. But still, like, this helps me with just, moving on, just still attempting to do something. On the other hand, if you actually want to get good, like, I'm not a good example. You should really, like, if you set your mind to it, there are a lot of good tutorials and whatnot, and a lot of people you can ask, a lot of communities. I'm just uh, you know, I whatever I do, I don't do it like I do. If that's my advice, I do things in a masochistic, roundabout way. So I guess that's it. In retrospect, I do have a lot of word parasites, and I stumble a lot. So if you think it's painful to listen to me, well, I had to put this whole thing together. So I know, baby. I know. I know.